Hello everyone, what's going on? My name is Banehorse, and this week I have something a little bit different from the YouTuber sculpting. I found the old sketches I did back in high school and I really liked some of them, so I decided to sculpt them. Now these aren't just random ass sketches, they were like journal entries for me back in the day. Where some people are good at expressing themselves through words or physical violence, I like to express myself through my artwork. I used to sketch on pretty much everything except a sketchbook. I would try to pay attention in class, but most of the time I was sketching on my loose leaf or drawing in the handouts that teachers gave me. There were actually a few times where I drew on the desk because I like when people see my creations and think that they were funny or something. There was even a time where, while I was taking a piss at the urinal, I drew a guy on the wall saying, "Have a good one," with a thumbs up, so anyone going to the bathroom would see it. I got a few compliments on that one, actually. I was a pretty shy and quiet person ever since I was a child. I never did anything to really put myself in the spotlight because I hated the thought of being judged by other people. And look at me now, I'm on YouTube. So the way I like to express myself most was my artwork. I'd say probably about 60% of my favorite pieces of artwork in high school were created on the back of some notes I was taking in class. It's not that I didn't care about what I was learning in class, I just had a lot going on in my head at the time, and that was the best way I knew how to express myself. Most of the drawings I made at that time were of monsters and different sorts of creatures. This was because around 10th grade, I went to Comic-Con with my cousin, and I discovered an amazing artist by the name of Alex Pardee. His illustrations were and still are amazing. He has a certain style to make these monsters and use a lot of color as well as a dripping paint effect, which makes the figure feel like it's melting. From there on, I bought his shirts as well as some artwork, and I would try to mimic his style in my sketches. I would copy my favorite drawings of his, and eventually I told myself I would have to create my own original designs, so I tried to. I would draw and doodle and draw and sketch. Now, as I said before, I used my drawings as a way of expressing myself, similar to a journal. The creature you see me working on right now was created in my high school Spanish class. Now, I'm a quiet person, and not many things bother me, but one of my biggest pet peeves is when people are just being obnoxious and rude. This sketch came to be because of this girl in my Spanish class, who was just seriously loud and would interrupt the class while we were being taught. Not to mention showing up late to class and then complaining when she would get bad grades in the class. So using my artistic skills and imagination, I sketched my idea of her real self on my paper. This for me was very therapeutic, and it helped prevent me from blowing up and just ripping this girl's head off. Even if you can't draw, I would recommend trying this out. When something is bothering you, just draw it out on paper. It doesn't need to be good. Most of the drawings I did were and you will most likely never see them. It's just fun to scribble your feelings. It doesn't even need to make sense what you draw. There's another sketch I did from high school that reminded me of something from Pink Floyd's The Wall. It was a huge centipede person with a blindfold over his eyes and balloons attached to his arms while walking through a ruined city as he was illuminated by spotlights. I would just draw random crap and keep sketching until I got something I liked. And if I didn't, I would just turn the page. But getting back to the story about the sculpt, I'm pretty sure the girl saw it because when people would see these weird-ass drawings, they would tell their friends to look at it, and besides the few attributes I added to the drawing that was inspired by her person, it obviously didn't look like her. This was what I pictured her soul to look like. The big mouth because she wouldn't be quiet, the long fingers because she couldn't keep her hands out of other people's shit, the hoop earrings because she wore hoop earrings, and the tentacles because I just like tentacles. She wasn't fat in real life either, I only drew her that way for my own enjoyment. It's weird, and I'm going to go on an artist tangent here for a minute, but drawing or painting fat people is honestly my favorite. When I was in college, semester 1, we had to take a figure drawing class. For anyone who doesn't know what this is, it's exactly what it sounds like. You drew figures, and these figures were naked. The hardest figure for me to draw were always the skinny people. I guess it's because at the time I didn't really have an eye for the little intricacies of the thinner body, but that figure I drew always came out looking terrible. The only time I really felt good about drawing was when there were bigger people as the model. I suppose this is because they had more curves, which makes it easier to draw in my opinion. Here's a scarring story for you all. In between high school and college, I took summer classes at Pratt Institute and FIT. While at FIT, I had my very first figure drawing class. And for me, it was a little jarring at first when a model gets completely naked and stands doing poses in the middle of the room. But over time, I got used to it. While there, one day, we had a figure model who had his hair slicked back in a ponytail, black eyeliner on, and when he posed, he was just buckets of sweat. So I started to draw, and normally figure models will either look into the distance, at the floor, or wherever, but not this guy. When I looked over at him, he was peering directly into my soul. A little awkward to make eye contact with a model, especially one that does not veer their gaze from you, but I continued on. Next pose, I look over from my drawing pad, only to realize that those black eyelinered eyes were now replaced with one bent-over brown eye. I guess you could say that drawing came out pretty shitty. And I will leave now. If you guys have any awkward or scarring moments, let me know in the comments below. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that extremely long discussion from what I was originally talking about, this little beauty. So now for people interested still, I'm going to talk about creating this sculpt. Creating this was a lot of fun because it came from my imagination. The YouTuber sculpts are fun, but they're stressful because you need to make it look like a person, and although I'm getting better at it, creating likenesses isn't my strongest area of expertise. So I will throw up my original drawing here, and you can see in the sculpt I changed some things. Originally, I drew the creature with these spaghetti-strapped tentacles coming out of her back because my inspiration wore nothing but spaghetti straps. But I decided to change it because then she would be exposed in the front, and I don't want my video flagged. So instead, I gave her a raggedy undershirt. Creating the tentacles was an interesting process, since I never sculpted anything with tentacles before. I just used Z-spheres to block out their position, and then I detailed them with clay buildup, Damien Standard, and the inflate tool. I did a lot of detailing around the face, the tentacles, the arms, hands, and I cut most of it out either because it was repetitive or it moved so fast it would cause epilepsy. A fun thing I did differently in the sculpt was that I used fiber mesh. Fiber mesh is a way to create realistic looking hair. I wanted her hair to look a little scraggly and pretty thin. So after maybe 3 days of consecutive sculpting, I got a nice steaming pile of high school sketching sculpt. This was really fun to do, and I want to make more sculpts of my old sketches. I think I'm going to weave them in between my YouTuber sculpting videos, but we'll see how that works out. So that's all for this week. I am Banehorse, and remember to keep on creating.